Okay, so the topic about how close should your gauntlet be fitted to your glove, it really depends on the context that you're using it for. So in terms of your perspective, you're using it for cosplay, it's going to be very nice and tailored and fitting, especially when you're talking about Dark Souls. It has to be very, very slender. Long story short, as tight as you can, that doesn't restrict your hand motion. So we're going to look at a couple of things. Because if you make it very form-fitting and it's already attached to your glove, you're actually going to have a very hard time getting into your gauntlet, taking it off. And when you're in cosplay, you're going to be doing a lot of taking it on, grab your phone, take a selfie, put it back on, I don't know, grab food, drinks, use your phone. So you want to make sure your glove slides in and out very easily. First off, the glove. Looking at the padding of the glove, when it comes in the padding, because you did ask that question, and I'm glad you thought of it. Most dueling gauntlet is actually whatever you put on your hand, actually, so even a glove can count. There is usually some sort of padding. There will be padding on the back. It's a very thin layer of padding, but it's still something. And of course, padding in the wrist, and you can still move really nicely. It's a very clean, slender glove that is very, very close to you, because if it's too big, too much fabric, then everything looks too bulky. You're carrying more metal because of the bulk. You want to keep it super, super tight. So first off, we're going to be looking at the finger gauntlet, because that's what everyone, well, essentially likes. So in the finger gauntlet, there's two configurations which I'll be showing you. So I am just gonna slide this guy in. So in this one, this is a detachable finger gauntlet. It's supposed to be sewn into the glove itself, and it shouldn't really be floating by itself. I just haven't sewn it in yet because these are my favorite gauntlet, and they are, if you look at it, they're very, very slender and very, very form-fitted. Even if you can see the glove to the metal, at best, you're gonna have a 1/4 inch at most. I'm gonna say as bold as like 2 to 3 millimeter. You want it as tight as you can, to the point where the gauntlet is floating right on top of the glove. You want it pretty much touching. So when you do that, then you have really, really good mobility in your glove. When there's too much metal around it, you're gonna find that when you close up your hand, there's a lot of metal that compresses, and then your finger actually comes longer because you have more metal on here compared to your glove. So that if you roll your finger in, there's more metal, and then it can actually fold in, then it just pushes out and do some weird stuff, right? So once again, finger gauntlet, the nicest looking one, you want to be as tight as possible. And ideally, you want it to be coming up just to the middle of your forearm. So my wrist is here, my elbow is here. The flare point of the actual cuff should only come to the half. And on here, probably you only want to cover like about a few inches. And that's it. You don't want to have this thing too bulky. And you want to keep it as narrow and slim as possible. When you're making gauntlet, try to make it so that you have some mobility this way, but more or less this way is the best motion, right? So that's one of the gauntlet. Second one is that there could be gloves that are already sewn to your gauntlet, like this one right here. This one is just a stainless steel. That's my dueling gauntlet. And you see that it is a lot bigger. Bigger because I like more. And on this one, you see how the gapping, it's really wide. Sometimes I can like fit a whole finger in between. There's more air, there's more padding in between, and the thing just kind of floats a little bit more. So if I do take a hit onto it, I use this for steel longsword fighting, and it is safe. For finger gauntlet to be safe in steel longsword, it's crazy. But these guys, this one right here is made from 18 gauge stainless steel, and because it's overlapping, you're gonna get to something almost like a 14 gauge, which is tremendously thick. It's probably as strong as a frying pan if you really want that as a comparison, right? And it's still very good articulation. You see how the articulation goes this way? So that way is very important. It's almost as important as doing this. So coming out, you only need your gauntlet to bend at a 90 degree. If it bent any more, you're probably breaking your wrist at that point. 90 degrees is more than enough in the back. In the front, you probably want to close off for you to ball up into a fist. And that's all you got to do. And then for here, ideally, maybe 15 degrees is probably good enough. You don't want it too much, because if it is, then it's just kind of getting too floppy. Next, we're gonna get into something called a bifurcated gauntlet, and these are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My favorite gauntlet. I love these things. They are as strong as, or at least as defensive as a finger gauntlet, but then they have the mobility. So then when you're fencing, when you're fighting things, you can have much more better control because you have 2 fingers. These ones, once again, they are meant for dueling. I use them personally, use them for armor combat, and we use these for stuff like spear, javelin, warhammer, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff that you really shouldn't do. But we do it because it's fun. And on this, the gapping is probably very close. It's around 1/4 inch away. And this is a very heavy padded glove right here. And the very last one, to the extreme example, how big should a gauntlet really be? Then we're going to be looking at something called a dueling mitten gauntlet. This one is a representation of late 15th to early 16th century armor. So it's kind of like King Henry kind of thing. And you see, well, if you look at Matt Easton had the exact same style. Not the same one, but the same style. This one is a hardened steel gauntlet. It is tremendously light. It is crazy light. And it offers the best protection. Now this one, you can see how big the flare is, because I can move however I want. The articulation is absolutely insane, but there is absolutely no give, no movement on any of these plates. It's just fully stuck. All I can do is probably this. That's all I get. I can't do anything else because the articulation comes from here. Now this means that when you're fighting in the style wise, it's just a very bulky looking thing. So when you're doing cosplay, you probably don't want something like this. You probably want something more or less. The best idea is something like this. The most slender looking gauntlet. This is probably your best bet. Like seriously, look at the size difference. That thing is insane. But then again, for cosplay, display, and parade, back then they had parade armor. Now those armors are fully functional. They're just more prettier and you don't want to get damaged. Like example, would you be warm in your really nice 3-piece suit? Well, yeah, it's a garment, but it's functional, right? Same thing. So there are parade armor tab for display, and then for those you would have finger gauntlet, and these are for commander use. Whereas for the guys who are getting down and dirty, really on the front line, really getting their hat bashed in, they would use gauntlet like this. For Dark Souls wise, stick with finger gauntlet. Key point. You're gonna notice that some of my fingers are actually poking out, and that's okay because when you ball your hand out, it actually fully encases. And if you look at it, the finger lengths is seriously, they're not that thick, they're not that wide. Make them as thin as you can, as wide as just covering your knuckles. Like you only want it to be as wide as pretty much your finger, slightly more than your glove. Just because if it's too wide, then your hand is gonna get stuck, and you can't do this because the plate is actually gonna get physically caught onto each other on the side. But it's thin enough like mine, then you can easily move your hand really nicely. So that's one key point that I really have to say. People always make finger lengths way too fat, way too big, way too bulky, and then they're gonna get stuck and you can't do anything to it, and then they're like, oh, my hand is stuck like that. Well, because you made it wrong. So make plenty of finger lengths, as many as you can. The more you have, the more comfier and smoother it is. Hope that answers your question. If you have any more, let me know. Happy to show you my toys. See ya.